Alright, welcome to my Basic Acid Pro startup tutorial. It's going to be just a basic rundown on how to get an interface going with Acid Pro and recording multiple tracks and maybe a few tips here and there. I'm going to try to make it as short as possible but add as much information as possible. So the first thing you want to do is hook up your interface. So as I'm hooking this up, you want to listen for the tones that it's going to generate. Alright, those tones are your computer telling you that the sound drivers understand that it's going to be using your interface for sound. So no sound's going to come out of your computer right now. So you're going to want to get some kind of a monitor system like headphones or a computer monitor system, desktop system, or a professional monitor system if you got the money for that. Would be best. Alright, so now that we've hooked up your interface, you're ready to open Acid Pro. So let's go ahead and open this. Okay, here we go. Now before we do anything, the first thing you want to do is assign the drivers. So I want to go to my options, into my preferences, and into my audio devices. Now this one's already set up to Pod X3 Live. Most of them are set up to Microsoft Sound Mapper. When you start it up, that should be the default of what it's set to. So what you're going to do is just open up Microsoft Sound Mapper and then scroll down to whatever interface you're going to use. This time we're going to use my Pod X3 Live, so I'm going to select that. Okay, and the next step, very important, you got to make sure you hit apply. It's not going to automatically do this. So now we just told Acid Pro to record with my Pod X3 Live, and I'm going to click OK on that. Alright, so now we have our interface hooked up and this is ready to record. So here's the basic layout. The first button everybody's looking for is the record button. So that's the big red one here. Now if I record with this, immediately I could start playing. And it's going to record something on there. I'm not going to keep this because we're going to go ahead and do another track using the metronome. Now normally what I would do is I would have a backing track or a drumming track to play with, and we'll get into importing tracks here in a little bit. Another thing for the size here real quick, you can use this to adjust the size of the track so you can have more detailed editing. Alright, so the metronome is located right here on this little control bar. Now you also notice the controls here, the basic layout is just like a CD player. You got pause, play. This will play from the beginning. This will play from wherever you paused it or stopped it at. And this will start it at the beginning and go to the end. So you just scroll over stuff and it'll tell you what it is. And there's shortcuts as well on these. Alright, so here we've selected the metronome. And if you want to adjust the tempo, you can either use this sliding bar here, or I can double click on that and write in whatever specified tempo or time signature that I want to use. So there we go. Let's just record a basic track here at a 120 tempo. Alright, there we go. So that's just a quick little something to get some sound recorded here. So, I might take this, stretch it out, look at the entire size, select a spot, and blow it up, check out the detail if I was going to edit, if I made a mistake or something like that. But we're going to just leave it like this because we're not going to get real detailed on this right now. Alright, so the next thing to do is to add a track. So before you do that, let's go up here to ARM and let's unarm that track. We don't want to record over this track again. Now we're going to go up to Insert and we're going to scroll down here to Audio Track. So this is going to insert an audio track. If you see the shortcut over here, Control Q, just use that from now on when you're inserting tracks. The next thing I want to do is arm that track. So this is telling Acid that this is the only track that I want to record on. So it won't record on this. I can record on multiple tracks at the same time, but we're not going to do that for this case. So you want to start your recording at the beginning. I want to get the full 8 count. And this is ready to record. So now that I've armed the track and told it which one to record, I'm going to go down here and hit record again, and this should play the track I recorded before as well as the new one. Quick simple little lead for you. And I left some noise on the beginning for a reason, because I want to show you how to edit this now. Alright, so now let's listen back to this. Let's go ahead and play back what we did. So I'm going to just start it here since I don't need to hear everything on the playback. And I'm just going to hit play. Alright, there we have it. And a lot of times on playback you might not want the metronome going on, or mute a separate track. Maybe I just want to hear this track as I'm recording. You can also loop the tracks. Let's go ahead and hit this, keep this on track for you. So now if I want to loop these tracks, what I do is next to the record is the loop. So I'm going to click that. Now you notice this is looping the entire region. I can adjust this to wherever I want. All I have to do is double click whatever track I want to loop and it'll go back to that. Now if I cut these, it'll go to the most previous cut spot on here. We'll get into the examples of that here in a second. So this is what looping the track will do. I'll play it from the end here. So if I had a backing track or something, I could just use that and it would just keep playing over and over and I could practice with it. Or if I'm trying to work out a part of a song, it's good for that as well. Alright, so cutting the tracks. Let's get into that. If I select a track, I can hit S. That will split the track. So splitting the track, I guess, would be the proper term for that. Now I can select either side of that and I can delete the part I don't want. Now I can blow this up even farther by using the arrow key, up or down, which will shrink it, or the little bar that I showed you down here at the bottom. Either one will work. So I can get in a lot closer and really listen to this. So I can see that it seems so I don't want all that noise. So I can either split that there and delete it, or I can just grab here at the side. If you see the different parts where I go up high, this will fade it. And then if I'm down here, this will actually drag the clip. Now if I'm in the center of it, I can drag and move the entire clip, which I don't want to do at this point. So let's go ahead and just cut this intro part off that we don't want to keep. And maybe I'll keep a little bit of that live sound in there and fade it. So this is what we're going to have. Right? So the rhythm, you can hear that buzzing in there. Let's cut that out too. I'm just going to split that because I already have it blown up and this will save time rather than stretching it out to find the end. So now, no sound. It's a little off time, but it'll work for this demonstration. Okay, so let's say I don't really want that intro rhythm in there. So let's start the rhythm in maybe a couple beats. So we can take our rhythm track and bring it back, you know, and I'm just visually looking at where the beats are, you know, or where the key points that I accented the guitar. I could also kick in the metronome and that would help me. And just cut it right on one of the clicks. So now that sounds a little bit smoother. It took this thing that sounded pretty messy right? And there we have it. Now there's other features on here that I can do as far as equalizing. I can select track effects. I can add a little high to this rhythm. Add some bass to it. That might sound terrible to you guys. Okay, there we have that. So I can completely equalize this. There's a lot of things I can do to get in here and edit and tweak this out and make it sound good. But we're not going to have time for all this. So let's, well, I'm going to leave that. I liked the delays there at the end there. All right, let's move on to the next part. So importing a track. Now if I import a track on here, what I'm going to need to do is go up here to Open. And I can select a track. I'll go to my desktop. We'll go to Recording Tracks. You know, I'm just going to So here we go. This has a drum mix on it. I'm going to go ahead and use this drum track. Now the first thing it's going to do is ask you to run it through Beatmapper. You can do this, and this helps a lot for tracking something as far as when you're editing and chopping and pasting things. Everything will be in time, which makes life easy. We're going to select no on this, and also I would recommend that you keep the automatic start thing on until you know how to turn that back on again. So we'll go ahead and finish that. Now I've just imported a drum track. I didn't import a 120 tempo drum track to match with this. Normally I would import the drum track and then record to the drum track. I just want to show you something real quick of how this works. You notice there's nothing here. I'll shut my metronome off. There's no sound. I just imported a track, yet there's no sound. So that was pretty frustrating to me until I realized this software gives you the option. Let's say I didn't import a drum track. Let's say I imported a ambient noise of some sort and I wanted like an intro, but I didn't want it to be long. I want to start maybe here. So yeah, I could add that track anywhere I want. I can just paint it on. So that's kind of the deal with this is you have to paint on all the tracks, which is sort of a pain. There may be a quicker way that I haven't found to do this, but you would just paint the track out as far as you need to, and there you have it. Then you could record to your drum tracks or whatever it was that you just imported. So I think you should be pretty good with some basic editing skills. You have the fade, you know how to cut things. If I want to cut all the tracks, I can, instead of selecting individual tracks, I can just select down here. Now I can split that. That'll split everything. Now both of my tracks are split. Alright, so the final thing is rendering tracks. So when you're rendering a track, a lot of times if you're doing studio work online or collaboration projects or something, you're home recording whatever with your friends and the other side of the country, you guys are going to want to trade tracks. So rendering the equal size is very important. That way if I render all my tracks the same size, when I import them or my friend imports them, he doesn't have to try to match the times up. It's already going to be in time. So when I render these, if I rendered this track separately like this individually and then went and rendered the other track, then I would be getting gaps here and left out here and nothing would match up. This would be the start of that one and that would be the start of this one. So what I want to do is render a full length all the way to the beginning, and then when I import these I can cut out anything I don't want. So you want to give yourself a little bit of space. You may come up with a new intro idea or something. Alright, so when you're rendering these, you're going to render the looped region. So I can render this entire piece here, or I can select individual tracks. Now I can do this either by muting tracks I don't want, or if you have too many tracks to do that, you can just select whatever track you want by hitting solo, and that'll automatically mute everything but the track you want to render. And this is usually how you do guitar tracks. That way you send individual tracks to whoever's mastering your recordings, if that's how you're doing it, or whatever. And they piece them together and mix and match and equalize everything and level it out. So here we go. So I'm going to unselect that, and we're going to go ahead and go to File, Render, and I'm going to go to my desktop for this. Now save as type. So you title it whatever, test. I have it set to MP3, there's MP4, there's all different kinds of formats you can use, WAV, WMA. You know, the easiest one for sharing is MP3. Obviously, if you're doing your finals, you'll want to use a WAV file. And you can adjust the bit rate and all kinds of things on this. You can get pretty detailed with this program, but we're just going to leave it at what it's set on as a default test MP3, and this is going to render the loop region only. If you look down here, you want to make sure that's selected. That way it'll only render the region that I selected to loop. And we'll just hit save. And boom, there we have it.